Good morning, good morning, good morning. Let's wake up U.S. history. Got a few things to talk about today. Let's do this. Yes. Come on in. Come on in. Let's get cooking today. All right. We'll pause here for 5 minutes, let everybody get into the class, and then we will get rocking and rolling here shortly. What up, Tony, Tony, Tony? Good morning, Tony. I didn't comb my beard this morning. Good, Tony. I'm glad you're ready today. I am glad you're ready. Do you have the PowerPoint pulled up? Those of you who are coming in, uh, we're going to do another warm up again today. We're going to do the warm up on slide number 22. So jump to slide 22, answer those questions. Go ahead and get started. This is the slide. The first question asks, what does transcontinental mean? What does transcontinental mean? So once again, just doing a little review. Good morning, Ashley. What's good, Quessy? If you're in, send me a shout out. Give me a good morning. Let me know you're here. Excuse me. Those of you who are just coming into the class, we are on the same guided reading, the guided reading that says Industrialization in America, the American City. That's the guided reading packet that we're on. The Industrialization of America PowerPoint is what we're working out of. And we are now doing the warm up on slide 22. Can't watch the flag? Yeah, I'm sorry, man. It is what it is, Jacob. Go blue. I'll give you a scan over here, You see that right there? That's right. It's national championships, baby. Good morning, Anasia. You guys start texting your buddies in class, telling them to jump on the live, get up, so we can visit with each other. Next week, we'll think about moving the time back a little bit. Maybe that'll help if we get up maybe 10:30. What do you guys think? Is 10:30 too late, too early? This is too early? Well, I'm glad you're up with us, London, this morning. Make sure you're going on slide 22, doing your warm up. We're going to start posting some answers here about 9:35 or so. Just trying to wait for people to get on. We got about 10 people on right now. If you're here, say what's up. Let me know you're here. Says we're up to about 11 people. Drop us a comment. Let me know that you're here. What up, Adaya? Where is the third leg of the triumvirate? Couldn't get her up this morning. We got London and Anaya. Y'all call Taylor and tell her to get on so I can make fun of her. Tony, are you doing your packet? Are you doing your warm up? Do you have the warm up? Tony, you're going first. You got the first question. Anaya, you have number 2. No, I'm about to do it. You should have already been doing it. You got number 1. Let's go. Let's get it together. Start eating grits. Let's do some U.S. history. We're waiting on you, Tony. Number 1. What do you got for number 1? Post an answer. What does transcontinental mean? What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? Very good. That's a good answer. Number 1, going across the continent. I hope you didn't look that up on Google and you knew that already, Tony. But it is it's exactly what transcontinental means. It means trans always means across, and then obviously continental means the continent. So the Transcontinental Railroad connected the East Coast to the West Coast. Make sure you note that the connection was made at Promontory Point, Utah. That was where the Transcontinental Railroad met. Know that it worked from the West Coast east and then from the East Coast west, and that's the way they built the Transcontinental Railroad. Very, very important because the Transcontinental Railroad played a very important role in the expansion of America westward, in the movement of people westward. So that's very important. And then also the labor. Who built the Transcontinental Railroad? The Transcontinental Railroad was built largely by immigrant labor. Okay, Asian labor from the West, and then European, Irish, predominantly labor from the East. So those are all things you need to know from the Transcontinental Railroad. Very good, Tony. Anaya, number 2. What you got? People are leaving. Don't leave. Don't get scared because I'm calling you out. Stay with me. Don't leave. What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? We're on, what slide are we on? How did you answer that? The first question. We're still on the same PowerPoint, the same slide. Yeah, slide number 22. Naya, we're waiting on you. Over there going, There may be a little bit of a delay of when I see it or when you guys post it. But we'll go ahead. I'll go ahead and answer the questions for you guys. Tony put up an answer, migrated westward for gold. Yes, I would say that was a little bit earlier. If you're talking about the gold rush of 1849, we're talking about the time period after the Civil War. But that's a good answer. And it's an accurate answer. But the biggest thing was land opportunities. Land opportunities westward for a lot of people. Even during the Civil War, there were several Southerners who abandoned lands in the South during the war to avoid the war and complications of the war and move westward. And then there was this encouragement. There was this encouragement by the federal government to get people to move westward to settle lands in the West. We talked a little bit about the Homestead Act, which gave land grants to people who are willing to move westward, willing to relocate westward. So that was really the major pull, was land owning opportunities in the West. Okay, now number 3, just to move on, how did the railroads affect new industries in the mid 1800s? It allowed, I had to eat breakfast. Don't be eating breakfast. This ain't time for breakfast. So, why it obviously expanded business all over the country, because now people could move products from one side of the coast all the way to the other. Hey, Taylor, you be on time to class every single day. I'm gonna check in on you every day, and you better be here every single day. No excuses. But yes, this is exactly how how businesses expanded. They expanded and were able to expand as a result of the expansion of the railroad. Okay. Don't sleep. Sleep is overrated. We can sleep some other time. When you get old, you can sleep. Why did radical Republicans oppose Lincoln's plan for Reconstruction? That's a throwback question. That's a big question. Why did the radical Republicans oppose Lincoln's plan for Reconstruction? Anybody got a quick answer? Type it in real quick. I'll give you 30 seconds. See if you can answer this one. Why did the radical Republicans in Congress, why did they oppose Lincoln's plan for Reconstruction? This is an easy one. Knock it out. Somebody hit me. 30 seconds. Or about 20 seconds. 10 seconds. Taylor, come on now. You got the answer to this one. Anaya didn't answer her question. Quessy, what you got, big dog? Yeah, whatever. I don't know what extra bonus points are. You got to have bonus points first to get extra bonus points. I just woke up. No, that's not the correct answer. I'm sorry. Anybody? 5 seconds left. Come on, y'all. Scared. Don't be scared. No. The radical Republicans opposed Lincoln's plan because Lincoln's plan they felt was too lenient. It was too easy on the South and made it way too easy for the South to re-enter the Union. It also made it way too easy for Southern Democrats to come back into Congress. So the radical Republicans in Congress did not believe that we should take this very easy, lenient, benevolent approach towards restructuring the United States. They felt that the South needed to pay for the Civil War and all of the damages and things that took place during the Civil War. So this was a constant struggle between Andrew Johnson and the radical Republicans, because he was left with the task of trying to lead Reconstruction, and his view on Reconstruction and Congress' view on Reconstruction did not match up. So that's important to know. The radical Republicans were the majority group in Congress during the Reconstruction, and the presidential Reconstruction plan and the congressional Reconstruction plan were heading in two different directions, and so this led to a lot of problems in government at that time. All right, and then the last one. I don't know if it's the last one. I think it's the last one. Yeah. How many branches compose our federal government? This one should be a alley-oop for a slam dunk. List each one of them and describe their main function. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. Hopefully we understand it already. We have three major branches of government. The executive branch, which consists of the president. Good, Anaya. We have three main branches. The executive branch, which consists of the president, the legislative branch, which consists of Congress, and then the judicial branch, which consists of the Supreme Court. And the executive branch, the president's role is to enforce laws. The legislative branch, Congress's job is to make laws, and the judicial branch's job is to interpret laws. Understand the connection between all those three. Although we have this separation of power, we also have our checks and balances system that keeps those branches of government interconnected. Okay? All right, good. Let's kind of move on to our slide. We don't want to be on too late this morning. We don't want to turn this into an hour session, but I always want to do that little bit of review. I'm having a little trouble with USA Test Prep, but be patient with that. That's coming. The directions and exactly what I want you to do will be posted on Edmodo when time is needed. But the biggest thing that I want to assure everybody is not to panic. Don't feel like you're falling behind if you're not able to get on the lives or there's some problem with your videos, even in any of your classes, guys. This is kind of like Lincoln's second inaugural address. With malice towards none and with charity for all, we understand that it's difficult. It's a difficult process for everybody, and there are a lot of different moving parts here. So for our class, and I think for all of your classes, don't overwhelm yourself. Don't get stressed out. Do what you can. Be diligent. You do want to continue learning. You are still in school. You are still a student at Hillgrove High School. But don't get yourself too worked up about anything that's going on right now. Okay? Just relax. Take it easy. Breathe. Do what you can do. And work on yourself. Okay? So jumping to the PowerPoint, back to the PowerPoint, we are talking about immigration now. And if you're looking at your guided reading, if you have your guided reading out, which everyone should, we're just continuing on from yesterday. And so we're talking about immigration and the flock to America and the way that America begins to attract new immigrants. And that creates some issue and creates some problem. Because America sees these new immigrants much different than the old set of immigrants. These people were coming from places like Italy and Poland and Russia. And these places had different political philosophies in many ways than what the United States had, and also the other countries of Western Europe. So that posed some problems and some issues for the United States socially, as well as politically. But many of these immigrants were coming to America. They didn't have very much. If not, they didn't have anything. They lived in very, very poor housing, low-cost housing, these things called tenements, which were really cramped, crowded places where you'd have maybe sometimes 6, 7, 8 people living maybe even up to 10 people living in a single room apartment. And so, you can just imagine the sanitation issues that existed. You can imagine the spatial issues that existed. And you had all these different people from different countries. Many of them didn't speak the language. Many of them with different customs and traditions and religious affiliations. So this posed some problem and some threat to the United States, and definitely to cities that were overcrowded. The slide that we're on right now is slide 55, but we're moving to slide 56 right now. So many of the immigrants that were coming to the United States were coming through two general ports. One was Ellis Island and the other one was Angel Island. Ellis Island is on, as you can see on the slide, is on the East Coast in the New York Harbor. And then the West Coast port was Angel Island, which is in the San Francisco Bay. And people you get processed there. So, immigration restriction was nowhere near what it is today. If you got on a ship coming from Europe and you arrived at Ellis Island, you went through processing, and most people were processed into the country. If you had anywhere to go, if you could prove that I have somebody, or there's somebody in Brooklyn, or there's somebody in Manhattan that I know that I'm going to go live with, if you are of general health, then more times than not, you were processed there and you were let into the country. Now, if you appeared sick or you didn't have a sponsor, then sometimes this was a clear way to either be detained at Ellis Island, or you could actually be shipped back home. But the United States, for the most part, took in hundreds of thousands of people through this port for many, many days. And they came into the United States with really little to nothing. Children, women, men, and they just processed you there at Ellis Island and you entered the country. And so for a long time, and for many people living in the United States today, a lot of us have ancestors that came through Ellis Island. So if we're looking at our guided reading packet, we are looking at the Ellis Island graphic organizer there. Ellis Island is located in New York. Angel Island is located in San Francisco. Okay. Thank you, Anasia, for getting everybody straightened out. So looking at that, we're looking at our guided reading packet. Ellis Island, New York, Angel Island, San Francisco. Just filling out our packet here. Origin of immigrants. The origin of immigrants in Ellis Island were coming from Europe. And the origin of immigrants going to Angel Island were coming primarily from Asia. The inspection process, I'm not going to ask you a question, and the standards are not going to ask you a question about the inspection process, but it's very similar in both. The inspection process, I did mention it a little bit. The inspection process dealt with whether or not you were healthy and whether or not you had a sponsor. And your sponsor basically was, hey, I have someplace to go, someplace to live. I have a prospective job that I'm going to be doing while I'm here. Of course, they could not really prove any of that. That a lot of times people are coming and say, oh, yes, I got a cousin that was there and that lives in Brooklyn. And, you may have some person come speak for you that would come to claim you at Ellis Island. But a lot of times it really was kind of false. These people didn't have anywhere to go. And it was so interesting is the number of children that were showing up in Ellis Island without parents and were being let into the country. And that's a very interesting thing. But the inspection process was very similar in both Ellis Island as well as Angel Island. A little bit different in Angel Island, but I don't want to spend much time really talking about that just because that's not really necessarily something that's covered in the standard. You guys could look that up. The impact of immigration on American culture is great. Every time you you infuse different groups of people into a country, they're going to start to affect the culture of the place. And so, as you know, the United States is a melting pot of a lot of different people and a lot of different cultures all mushed together. We don't even realize that the vernacular of the United States is kind of this hodgepodge of words that come from other places, and sometimes we don't even really realize it. But you know, there on your slide, on the guided reading slide, it asks you questions about religion. One of the interesting things about the religion of Southern Europe is that the majority of the people coming from Southern Europe were Roman Catholic. Southern Europe would be Italy. So a lot of them were coming and they were Catholic. And although they were Catholic, people already living in the United States, not in large numbers, but you start to see with this Italian immigration, large sums of Italian immigration coming to the United States, you start to see the growth of Roman Catholicism. Eastern Europe, you see the growth of Eastern Orthodox. And then religion of Asia would be things like Buddhism and Shintoism were coming into the United States. For language, obviously Italian for Southern Europe would be one, maybe even Greek. For Eastern Europe, things like Polish and Russian would be languages. And then in Asia, you're talking about Chinese, Japanese, or predominantly the languages that people were speaking there. When it's asking about neighborhoods, don't really worry about that. It's really not as important. Cuisine and occupations also not as important. In fact, you guys, I'm going to leave that up for you guys to kind of fill out, just because I'm not going to ask you on a test about what neighborhoods they lived in or what exact cuisines they ate. It's a little bit relative anyway. Okay. So some very interesting pictures right there. I do want to talk a little bit, if you're skipping the slide number 63, is this idea of nativism. And I know that that's not on your guided reading packet, the discussion of nativism, but nativism is very important. And you could, if you would like to, you could put it under number 1, because that's really what led to that ban of immigration from China, is this sense of nativism. As immigrants were coming into the country, the people already here in the United States, the U.S. citizens, the natural born citizens here in the United States, there was created a separation between those people and the new immigrants that were coming into the United States. Many people felt very similar to the way people feel today, that the immigrants were coming into the United States. They were coming in with different political philosophies, different ways of seeing things. A lot of times they were critical of the United States and the federal government in terms of the way they were doing things. We had even had assassination attempts from immigrants that were coming into the United States, and not only just assassination attempts, but assassination attempts that were successful. As we know, William McKinley, you probably don't know, but William McKinley was assassinated by an anarchist who was an immigrant. But there began to be this friction between native-born citizens and immigrants. This idea that they were coming in and they were able to underbid native-born citizens. They were lowering costs. They were lowering wages. A lot of times they didn't want to participate in labor unions and labor efforts. And so this nativist idea and ideology began to filter into the United States and into the social fabric of the United States. And what is nativism? Nativism is the idea that people who are native to the country should share in rights and privileges that people who are newly entering the United States shouldn't share in. So there's this sense that that the people who are native to the country in many ways are superior to the people who are moving in. So similar, it's like any other ism, you know, ethnocentrism or racism or any ism, there is this belief of superiority that exists. And so you had a lot of pushback from Native Americans against immigration, especially at that time where there were just floods and floods of immigrants coming into the United States on both coasts. So then there was also this push, and there was also this feeling that these immigrants, instead of coming here and setting up their own little social enclaves, and a great example of this is New York City. In New York City, you know, all the Italians migrated into one location, and they start calling it Little Italy, or Little China, or you had, you know, German communities, or you had Polish communities. And so they navigated in one area, and then when they got to those areas, they just perpetuated their culture. Well, the nativist attitude was these people shouldn't do this. If they're going to come, they need to come. They need to speak English. They need to adopt our ways, our views, our language, our religion, so on and so forth, which is a very similar feeling that a lot of Americans have today towards immigrants that are coming to the United States. So nativism is a very important concept that we need to make sure that we understand. Okay, and what that nativist attitude pushed Congress to do something, and there was a lot of the nativism against European immigrants only went so far, but the nativist attitude towards Chinese immigration went much farther, and it led the United States to passing a law called the Chinese Exclusion Act. So in 1882, really just after the completion of the railroad system out west, nativist attitude led Congress to passing the Chinese Exclusion Act in 1882. And it's very simple of what the Chinese Exclusion Act said. It said no more Chinese. It was an act that prohibited Chinese immigration to the U.S. and limited the rights of Chinese immigrants that were already living in the United States. So is it a constitutional law? No, it's not. Later on, the Supreme Court comes and says that the Chinese Exclusion Act is not constitutional, but it stands as a great example of how strong nativist attitudes were in the latter parts of the 19th century and the early parts of the 20th century. So very, very important, Chinese Exclusion Act. So the question on your guided reading packet, in 1882, why were the Chinese completely banned from immigrating to the United States? One, make sure you put a law was passed called the Chinese Exclusion Act, and it's because of nativist attitude, nativist beliefs, and nativist attitude is what led to the passing of that law. So that's number one under there. And then number two, what movement gained ground in the late 1800s to oppose the influence of new immigrants on American society? And that is nativism. Number two, the answer is nativism. Okie doke. We're good. Everybody good? Any questions? I know that was a little bit of a mouthful. Y'all, are y'all still here? I hope so. I hope you're still paying attention to me. Yes, we here. Good. And Asia's good. All right. We'll keep moving then. Jamie, are you good? Yep. Think we are fine. Okay, thanks, TJ. All right, good stuff. All right. Taylor, you're so silly. So moving on down and continuing on just to finish up today's packet, and I'm going to post the next packet a little bit later on, but it talks about some of these technologies. And remember yesterday, I keep trying to give you guys this, and maybe you can write it somewhere. technology or innovation, which is technology, innovation leads to industrialization, and industrialization leads to urbanization. So that's all these things, they kind of go hand in hand. So the PowerPoint slide kind of speaks for itself a great deal in terms of these innovations. Things like skyscrapers, elevators, and bridges, they gave rise to the American city. And other inventions like Alexander Graham Bell inventing the telephone, one of the more brilliant and most important inventions in American history, or in world history, not American history, but in world history. The telephone changes the world a great deal. And usually in class, I kind of go into the fact that you guys are living in a very similar age to the latter part of the 19th century, because you guys have lived in an age where new inventions have changed the world, changed the way we interact with one another. It's changed business. It's changed education. I mean, look at what we're doing right now. When I was growing up, there's no way something like this would even be conceivable. And so same thing for that period of time. Technology really did change business, it changed society, it changed the way everything worked in the world, and definitely in the United States. So Alexander Graham Bell, going to your packet, is the inventor of the telephone. His impact on society and its impact on society obviously allowed for effective communication. Improved communication is kind of obvious. I think that you guys could probably answer that question without me. You guys found a way to argue in a digital classroom. That's crazy. Okay. So it is, and then obviously Thomas Edison, and Thomas Edison's role on world history, and especially in the history of the United States, is tremendous. There are people who believe that Thomas Edison is the most influential person in American history, because he turned the lights on. It's hard for us to even imagine what a world without electricity, a world without light bulbs, and walking in a room and hitting a switch and the lights come on. We can't even imagine a world before that. But Thomas Edison doing that allowed for factories, allowed for people to operate around the clock. For many centuries and for all of human history, the sun was so very, very important, because once the sun set, everything really pretty much stopped. And so, because it was very hard to work under an oil lantern or from a flame or fire, or these types of things. We don't even realize how much light is just generated outside, but not even just lights right next to us, but lights that are reflecting off the atmosphere from the big cities and things around us. So, they lived in a much darker world than what we lived in terms of just light. But Thomas Edison, when he flipped the light switch, he turned lights on inside of New York City. That changed the world. But beyond that, also the phonograph. The phonograph is basically what later on becomes what we would consider to be the radio, and then motion pictures. So if you think about those three things, the light bulb, phonograph, sound, and then motion pictures, which is television, movies, and those types of things, think about the impact that all those things have on American society. And you can indirectly as well as directly, just motion pictures. All of us every day are consumed by the television, by movies, by our phones, by these other various different things. These motion pictures is very, very important to us in our society. And we really have to attribute all that to Thomas Edison. So Thomas Edison plays a huge role. You can definitely expect to have a question about Thomas Edison and all those things. So it says inventor, as you can see, he's the inventor of all three of those things. And then the impact on industry and society. The light bulb obviously allowed for round the clock, 24/7, as it says there on the slide, 24 hours a day. No longer were the only operational during daylight. And then the phonograph and motion pictures created new pastimes for Americans. You know, people are now, and the early movies did not have sound to them. People would just go and they would watch with subtitles, or they just would watch it, just watch these pictures and people act things out without sound. Actually, movies with sound don't really come about until the 1920s and late 1920s and 30s. But, you know, Thomas Edison changed the way society worked. He changed just about everything with American cities. So, you know, very, very important role does Thomas Edison play in American history. Are y'all fighting? Is this a fight? Do I need to write y'all up? I see a punch being thrown. Y'all break this up now. Y'all stop. Crazy. There's several punches thrown, Taylor. That could be considered a terroristic threat. There may be an administrator who's checking in, watching this, so you know you may want to watch out. Lord have mercy. What is wrong with these folks? Are y'all paying focus? Focus, Taylor. Taylor, answer this question. Who invented the phonograph? You got 10 seconds to answer. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 2.5, 1. See, you're not focused. You're not paying attention. TJ, I don't know what's happening. I invented it. Lord have mercy. Thank you, Anaya. Thank you. Thank you. Because we gotta get Taylor. We gotta get Taylor straightened out. So yeah, that finishes up, should finish up our slide. Finish up our note page for today. So we're gonna stop there. Not a lot of stuff right there, but that stuff is very important, especially the technology stuff. Chinese Exclusion Act, make sure you go back over that. Nativism, Ellis Island, Angel Island, all those things are EOC questions. I just guarantee you, of course, I don't know exactly what's on the EOC, but those are big EOC questions right there, and big EOC topics. So those are big things that are highlighted in our standards. Okay. So be looking for the USA Test Prep stuff to come out. Just got to get it all organized and make sure I have the right instructions and the right school codes and things so you guys can get connected on that. And I'm going to be sending out review materials there. But for the most part, guys, we're going to continue to do what we're doing. We're not going fast. We're not going over a lot of stuff. We're filling out our guided reading packets. We're continuing to learn. All right. So obviously, if you've got any questions, jump into Edmodo, ask your questions. I hang out on Edmodo till about 11:30 every single day. Send your emails, and we'll keep rocking and rolling. All right? Okay? Ladies, y'all be nice to each other, all right? Cool. No problem, Anaya. Anytime. Y'all take it easy. Be easy, breezies.